Hello everyone, welcome to my channel all about Java. So in this video we are going to cover most asked Java interview questions. So basically when you interview for a Java developer role, interviewer will like to get an overview of how much of Java you know. So he'll try to ask you these questions which will cover every Java feature. So before we proceed to the video, I recommend that whenever you see a question, pause the video, try to answer it yourself. So you will have an idea like how much prepared you are for the interview. So let's get started with the video. The first and most important question in a Java interview is like explain object-oriented programming concepts with examples. So there are four main concepts. Actually, class and object should also be included, but it's upon you if you want to tell the interviewer or not. But if you want, you can also include class and object in object-oriented concepts. But these are four main pillars of object-oriented programming concepts. Oops, concepts. The first is abstraction, second is encapsulation, third is inheritance, and polymorphism. We'll see one by one and how you can explain it to the interviewer. Abstraction, it only allows to show the required details to the users, and non-essential units are not displayed. It means like you are representing a system at higher level. Like user will have no idea of its underlying implementation. You will only expose the required features to the users and not the implementation. For example, man driving a car. He knows that accelerator increases the speed of car and brakes decreases the speed of car, but he doesn't know how accelerator increases the speed of car, and same for brakes. Second one is encapsulation. Encapsulation means wrapping up of data in a single unit, like binding together of code and data it manipulates. You can achieve encapsulation by using getter and setter methods. Like if you don't want a particular class to access a per- particular field, then you can have your setter method designed in that way. That's why it's also called as data hiding. um, for example, here you can say like in a company, HR can view address of an employee, but other staff cannot view address of that particular employee. You can achieve it through encapsulation. So third important concept is inheritance. In inheritance, one class allows another class to inherit its features. It is a relationship, like subclass is a superclass. So important terminologies you need to consider in inheritance is like subclass, superclass, subclass, and reusability. Superclass is also known as parents whose features are inherited. Subclass is also known as child class who inherits the parents' features. And reusability means like since subclass is reusing some features of superclass, it is important terminology in inheritance. For example, here you can consider it animal kingdom. So every other animal is mammal who like can reproduce. So dog, reptile, whale, they are also mammals. So there are some common features in this dog, reptile, whale as a mammal that can eat, they can sleep. But they also have their unique features like dog can walk and whale can swim. So why that's where inheritance comes in picture, where you can reuse it the common features. You can have common features in superclass, and subclass have its own behavior or functionality. Polymorphism. Polymorphism is an object-oriented concept in which you can differentiate between the entities with same name. There are two types considered in polymorphism. One is overloading, also known as static binding or also known as compile time polymorphism. Second is overriding. It is also known as dynamic binding, also known as runtime polymorphism. So in overloading, the method name is same, but number of parameter it takes is different. But in overriding, the method name is same as that of superclass. The method it has in superclass, and the number of parameters is same. That's why it is known as method override. Here example you can take it as addition of numbers. For suppose in method overloading, if you are considering addition of numbers, there are two met two types of additions that you want to like calculate. First is addition of two numbers and second is addition of three numbers. So you can have method add, which in first method it will take two parameters, and in second method it will take three parameters. Same you can write it for method overriding. List methods present in object class. First is clone, where you want to create a clone of object. I have just listed it. If you want to go through all the methods, what its behavior is, you can refer it to, you can read these, or also you can refer it on Google. You can search it on Google. So first is clones, second equals, hash code, toString, wait, notify, notify all, and finalize. Third, this is one of the most asked questions and important questions as well. Like when we were talking about polymorphism in the first question, the interviewer can certainly ask you like what is the difference between method overloading and method overriding. So these are the main key differences. In method overloading, as I said, like it is static binding or compile time polymorphism. In method overriding, you can say dynamic binding and runtime polymorphism. Here, in method overloading, it has same name but different signatures, as in it can take different parameters or return type can be different. But in method overriding, it has same name, it takes same number of arguments, and it the return type is also same. Method overloading, inheritance may or may not be required. In method overriding, obviously inheritance is compulsory. Like method overriding happens only uh, in inheritance. Method overloading is performed between methods within the class. As I said, like method overriding happens in the same class, and method overloading happens in same class, and method overriding happens in subclass between parent and child class. It is used to order add more behavior to of methods. Like as I said, there was if you will consider addition of addition of numbers. So if you want to have addition method which can add three numbers, you can have uh, it in your class with the same name, but it will take different arguments. Whereas it is used to order, it is used in order to change the behavior of existing methods, right? Like we override the behavior of superclass in subclass. We want subclass specific behavior, then we can override the method of superclass in our subclass. In method overloading, there is no need of more than one class. Obviously it happens in one class only. In method overriding, we need at least of two classes. An important question that also arises after this is like the interviewer will ask you like whether static methods can be overridden or not. No, the static methods, that is another question I'll cover. Difference between checked and unchecked exceptions. So checked exceptions occur at the compile time of the program. So checked exceptions means compiler will give you an error if you did not handle that exception. For example, if you are trying to create an object of file, or like you are trying to do an IO operation, you need to handle that exception in the code itself. That otherwise the compiler will throw compilation error. In unchecked exceptions, it the compiler will pass if you haven't like handled the exception, and obviously it occurs at the runtime of the program. And the examples is like error index out of bounds exception or arithmetic exception. Like you are trying to divide a number by zero, but your compiler will not throw an error on that. Okay, at runtime it will throw an error like no, you cannot divide any number by zero. So this is the difference between checked and unchecked exceptions. Does finally block always execute in Java? So there are like one case you can say, if you write system.exit in try or catch block, then finally will not get executed as you have terminated the program before execution of finally block. Or like you are in the halfway of the execution of the program, or your system gets crashed, then also finally block will not get executed. This is one of the most frequently asked Java interview question. This you will be like asked in 70% of the interviews, like how HashMap internally works in Java. So to get I will give you overview here like how it internally works in Java. But if you want to go into deep, you can refer to the answer in Geeks for Geeks, or also you can search for the videos on YouTube. So that if you want to go that deep, but I'll give you the overview of like how it internally works and what question interviewer can like ask you during you are answering this question. That will cover in this question. um, for to basically know like how hashmap works, you need to know like what is hashing. To understand hashing, you need to know like what three terms: hash function, hash value, and bucket. Hash function is nothing but hash code function which we have in object class, and it returns the memory reference of a object in integer form. It converts the object in int. Hash value means the value that is returned by our hash function is known as hash value. And bucket is used to store key value pairs, and simply linked list is used to store objects when there is hash collision. We'll see what hash collision is. The internal working, we need to know like two important methods. We have seen what hash code method is. Another important method is equals. So interviewer will ask you like if you want to have your own implementation of like hash map, or some own custom logic that you want to implement, and do you need to override hash code or equals method? Then answer is yes. Like if you want to have custom implementation of hash map, then we need to override hash code and equals, and both method need to be overridden. You cannot like override one of them. So if you are overriding hash code, then you must override equals also. So hash code, we know like it will return the memory reference of object in integer format, and it will help to calculate the index of that key. An equals method is used to check whether the two objects are equal or not. Equals to compare the key whether they equal or not. If equals method return true, they are equal, otherwise not equal. So how index calculation is done when it comes to hash map? Whatever we have calculated the hash code in hash code, like obviously in this case memory reference is written in form of integer format, we'll calculate the hash code, and it is bitwise and with the number of like buckets or the size of array. By default the size of hash map is 16, so here we are considering 16 as it will dynamically grow. Like what we have based on the load factor, the dynamically it will grow its capacity when the number of elements is reached its limits. So here n minus 1, it is and with the hash code that we have calculated. So this is important when we are trying to insert or get the key from hash map. So suppose you want to insert some key value pair, what steps will occur while inserting a key value pair in HashMap? First, it will calculate the hash code of key. Then it will calculate the index of key based on the hash code that we have calculated. And at that index, it will insert key value pair. So here arises the question of hash map collision. Suppose sometimes it can occur like the two hash codes could be equal. In case of same hash codes, equals method is called an object. So if the objects are same, then value is overridden. If objects are different, then new node is attached to the bucket. This is when you want to retrieve a key value pair from hashmap. So here what it will the steps involved will be, it will first calculate the hash code, then based on that hash code it will calculate the index. It will go to that index and return the bucket or value when the next node is null. If there are multiple nodes, so it will traverse the linked list, run equals method on each key till the key is found or the next node is null. This is how HashMap internally works. Strings are immutable in Java. Strings are basically stored in a string pool. So whenever you are trying to create a new object of a string, it will the value of that string object will be stored in a string pool. It was designed to make efficient use of memory. Suppose if you are trying to create another string with the same value, then the only the reference is returned and no new string is created. Hence, several references could be pointing to one literal. So, even one of the references is modifying the value, it will be modified for all the references pointing to that literal. That's why strings are immutable in Java. That's why its behavior is final. String class is marked as final so that no one can override its behavior. What is the difference between throw and throws in Java? This is related to exception handling. So, throw is used when you want to throw an exception explicitly in the code, and you can throw only one exception at a time. Throws is used in method signature to declare an exception which might be thrown by the function while execution of code. Like, for example, if you don't want to write a try catch block whenever you are performing an IO operation, so you just tell the compiler that method can throw IO exception. So you can avoid try catch block at that time. So in case of throws, you can declare multiple exceptions at a time. Like a method can throw a file not found exception as well as IO exception and etc. Next question is, what is difference between hash map and hash table? The both is hash map and hash table are used to store key value pairs, but the difference is like hash map is unsynchronized, like it is not thread safe, but hash table is synchronized and thread safe. Hash map allows only one null key or multiple null values. Means obviously, like hash map stores unique key, so only one null key is allowed, and hash table doesn't at all allow any null key or value. This is one of the basic and important question you can say while when the interviewer jumps into multi-threading. So he'll ask like explain life cycle of thread. What is a thread basically? Thread is a lightweight process, or it also executes a sequence of code executed independently with other threads of control within a single executed program. Okay. So the states that are involved in life cycle of a thread is new, runnable, blocked, timed waiting, and terminated. These are the six steps involved in the life cycle of a thread. This is how life cycle of thread looks like. Whenever a new thread is created, it will go in new state. Whenever we'll do that thread dot start method, whenever will invoke t dot start method, it will go into runnable state. So if it is trying to acquire, if it is acquired a lock, it will be in blocked state. If lock is acquired, then it will again go into runnable state. It will go in waiting state because it is waiting for a notification, and if notify method will like notify that thread, then notification is acquired, it will again go into runnable state. We will whenever we'll do like thread dot sleep method, it you can say it is waiting for timeout notification. Whenever we'll do thread dot sleep of 500 milliseconds, for 500 milliseconds it will be in timed waiting, and whenever that sleep method 500 milliseconds are over, it will again go into runnable state. So terminated, it will go in terminated state whenever there is an exceptional or abrupt execution end of execution of program, or it has executed completely. This is the life cycle of thread. Next one is, which one is better, to implement runnable or to extend thread? Implementing runnable is always better as it will make your code loosely coupled and easier to read. By extending class, you will not be able to extend any other class since Java doesn't support multiple inheritance. What is the difference between string builder and string buffer in Java? Obviously, as we have seen, string is immutable, whereas these classes, string builder and string buffer, are mutable. String buffer is thread safe and synchronized, string builder is not. Therefore, performance wise, string buffer is slower than string builder. What is marker interface? Names of marker interfaces in Java. A marker interface is an empty interface that doesn't contain any method or any field. And examples of that are serializable or clonable interfaces. What is autoboxing and unboxing in Java? Autoboxing means conversion of primitive data types to their corresponding wrapper classes, like int to integer, float to float. And unboxing is converting object wrapper classes into primitive data types. What is the difference between final, finally, and finalize in Java? So final is a keyword, an access modifier which is used to apply restrictions on a class, method, or a variable. But final is a block in Java exception handling. The important code whether the accept to execute the important code whether the accept whenever the exception occurs. And finalize is the method used to perform cleanup processing just before the object is garbage collected. Final keyword is used with classes, methods, and variables. Finally, block is always related to try and catch, while just as we have seen, it is for exception handling. And finalize is used with the objects. Method is used with the objects. Once declared, final variable becomes constant and cannot be modified. Final method cannot be overridden, and final class cannot be inherited. Finally, block runs the important code even if the exception occurs or not. Finally, block cleans up all the resources used in try block. Finalize method performs the cleaning activities with respect to object before its destruction. And when execution is considered, final method is executed only when we call it. Finally, block is executed as soon as the try catch block is executed. Its execution is not dependent on the exception. And finalize method is executed just before the object is destroyed. Okay, this is also like most asked interview question. Like, if you'll consider 10 interviews, then out of 10, 6 in 6 interviews, you'll get this question asked. Explain garbage collection in Java. Garbage collection is a process by which Java programs perform automatic memory management. While you are programming, sometimes you might dereference the objects and not use it for a while. Then Java will automatically identify those objects and mark as ready for garbage collection. Marked objects are deleted when garbage collector is invoked. After there is daemon thread in Java which will invoke this garbage collector time to time, and whichever objects are marked for deletion, it will the garbage collector will delete. However, if you want to like invoke you don't want to depend on the thread to invoke the garbage collector, you can obviously invoke by yourself in the program using these two ways: system.gc, runtime.get, runtime.gc. These are the two ways you can use to call garbage collector. And it is also compaction process which makes easier to allocate memory to new objects sequentially after the block of memory allocated to existing. Obviously, whenever we delete the object, some of the memory gets freed. So that's why the compaction process makes becomes easier. So this is it. Thank you for watching. These were all like most frequently asked Java interview questions. Hope it helps you to prepare for your upcoming interviews, and make sure you like and subscribe. Bye bye.